this session in our series of Launch. Forget your comforts, set your course, and follow your calling. My goal is to help you to become more effective in who God has created you to be and to accomplish all that He has called you to do. You see in my hands here I have some rope, and we've been going through the series talking about different things, different tools that are on a ship that help to get this idea of launch into our lives. And today we're going to specifically talk about how to facilitate change. We're going to talk about the various stages of facilitating change. And think about this rope. This rope is something that's important that can be used on a ship to go ahead and facilitate change. When you think about the greatest change-making decisions in our life, they're the culmination of 1,000 tiny little decisions, 1,000 tiny little strands put together to go ahead and make change happen. No one makes big change without little choices. If you consider the men that Jesus worked with, how did He get them from being fishermen to becoming fully committed followers of Himself? How do you get committed businessmen or fishermen to leave their work to commit to full-time ministry with Jesus Christ? Let's consider who He recruited. When you think about who He recruited, let's talk about who He didn't recruit. He didn't recruit scribes or students of the Jewish law. None of the disciples were Pharisees or Sadducees. He didn't recruit people who were strangers to Himself. He knew all these men. He had grown up most likely with many of these men. He knew them by name. He recruited men who were responsive to Him. When He gave the call, they willingly followed Him. He recruited people who were willing to change. He recruited people who were willing to take some risk. He recruited men who were willing to go ahead and say no to everything else, but yes to one single thing, and that was following Jesus Christ. They went where He went. When He slept, they slept. When He ate, they ate. When He ministered, they ministered. They were fully committed followers because of facilitated change. Now, if you think about in your life and in mine, if we want to facilitate change, where do we begin? Well, the first stage is this, our position. The Bible says in Luke 5:1, it says that He stood by the lake of Gennesaret, a lake of Galilee. The second part of it is observation. In verse 2, it says He saw two ships standing by the lake. The fishermen were going out of them washing their nets. The third stage of facilitating change is this, it's engagement. In verse 3, it says that He entered into one of the ships, which was Simon's, and prayed him that he would thrust down a little from the land. So we have position, we have observation, and now we have engagement. Number 4 is planning. When He had left speaking to the multitude, He turns and gives specific instruction to Simon, launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a draft, for a catch. We find then Simon gives the fifth stage, and that is this, evaluation. He answers Jesus by saying, Master, we've toiled all night and we've taken nothing, but because of what you said, I'll go ahead and let down the net. That leads us to the sixth stage, and that's this, execution. In verse 6 it says, when they had done this, they enclosed a great multitude of fish, and their net brake. And they beckoned their partners to go ahead and come and help them go ahead and load up the fish in their ship. Once they did this, the Bible says that their ships began to sink because of the great multitude of fishes that they had taken in. That leads us to our next stage. We find stage 7 is this, celebration. In verse 8 it says, when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees and said this, depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. For he was, in verse 9 it says, he was astonished, and everyone that was with him. That leads us to the 8th stage of transition. Jesus says to him, fear not, from henceforth thou shalt catch men. We find then the 9th stage is this and last. In verse 11, when they had brought their ships to land, they forsook all and followed Him. It's the completion of this facilitation of change. David Allen says in his book, Getting Things Done, he talks about this process to go ahead and accomplish things to facilitate change. It starts off with vision. What does it look like to change in my life? You want to paint the clearest picture in your mind. Dream big. What exactly does change look like? Then brainstorm. What will it take to make this change happen in my life? Do a brain dump of all that you think it will involve. Do some research. Curate and collect information about what this change will take. Then the next step is organize. How will I make the change happen? Prioritize these in steps 1 until whatever the last step might be. From that, brainstorm. Organize those. Then the last step is execute. What's the very first step we must do? Begin with step 1 and then go to step 2, step 3, and so on until the full facilitation of change has happened. Think about it for your time and your calendar. What does change look like this year? On the yearly scheme, what do I want to accomplish this year? Start there. Then go into a smaller segment. Monthly, what do I want to accomplish this month? Then bring it down into the week. What do I want to get accomplished this week? And then you guessed it, bring it down to the day. What do I want to get accomplished today that'll reach the long-term goal to facilitate change for the year? What does this look like for this process of facilitating change? Think about what books do you need to read? What podcasts should you be listening to? How about blogs you could subscribe to? Or people to talk to that have facilitated change in their lives, that are doing what you want to do, that are already there and can go and help you. They can use that rope that they have put together, the change that they facilitated in their lives. They can pass it off to you to go ahead and see change happen in your life. Think about this. Am I willing to say no to all other options in order for this change to happen? Am I willing to give an inordinate amount of time, energy, my finances to make this change take place? Am I willing to let others into my life to help me accomplish this change? And this is so crucial. One of the great things that we find here at Greater Philadelphia Baptist Church is a connection into the church as a whole. One of the great ways to get connected in is through what we have, our growth groups. And having that accountability can facilitate great change in our lives. That change that's going to take place, it's going to take focus and patience, sacrifice, even hurt at times, inconvenience. It'll take great self-encouragement and determination, persistence, and diligence. Now think about this. Here are 4 areas of personal evaluation. Think about your vocational differential. How can Jesus use my current circumstance and my vocation to point people to Him? Then we find this. The next one is deciding the essential. What can I say no to that is not going to help me change? Get that out of my life so I can get the most essential in. Then think about your divine potential. What can I give up that makes room in my life to let Jesus fulfill His calling for me? What can I do today to take one more step from where I am to where Jesus Christ wants me to be? Think about this. What can I pray about that only Jesus can do to get me from where I am to where He has called me to be? And let Him do that. A couple of statements as we wrap up. Only you can launch out and let down your nets. Nobody else can do that for you. Only you can. And only Jesus can bring in the great catch of fish. Only Jesus can put those right by your boat and facilitate that change. Only you can speak and give, love, and serve. But only Jesus can change a person's heart that you're trying to reach. Only you can change you. Nobody else can change you. Only you can decide for yourself. But only Jesus can take those choices of change and use them to impact all of eternity. Someone had to build the ark. It was Noah. Someone had to fight a giant. We have David. Someone had to preach a great gospel message to Nineveh. That was Jonah. Someone had to die and give his life on the cross for the world, Jesus Christ. And someone had to reach you. Someone had to reach me. And think about this. Some you has to change to reach out to others. And that someone is you. The some you. Without choosing change, you will never fulfill your calling for Jesus Christ. Without facilitating change, you'll always be and do what you have always been and done. And think about this finally. When you facilitate change, you'll become who Jesus has always known you were. He created you and He called you, and He knows what's deep inside you that can come out, your great potential. When you facilitate that change, you'll accomplish what Jesus has called you to do and who He's created you to be. Those who refuse to change reveal that they have a diseased, unhealthy head and an unhealthy heart. Those who can't change, well, the truth is they really can. They simply choose not to. Those who will not change, they'll be passed over for those who are willing to change when Jesus calls. Are you willing to change? Now think about this. Change doesn't take talent. It just takes a willingness to let Jesus get all the credit. Not about me. It's all about Him. Change doesn't take smarts. It just takes a willingness to let Jesus do all the planning. Instead of my plans, it's Jesus' plans. Instead of my will, it's His will. Change doesn't take incredible strength. It just takes a willingness to let Jesus' power replace our weakness. Change doesn't take money. It just takes a willingness to let Jesus have access to all you and I have, all of our possessions, not for us, but for Him to use. A changed life is a chosen life. And positive change never happens by chance. But positive change does happen by a divine calling of Jesus Christ. Remember this, as we always say, true living is when you fulfill who God created you to be and you fulfill what God has called you to do. Hey, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate the time that you're given to go ahead and invest in your walk and your change for Jesus Christ. Remember this, live out your who in all you do. We'll see you next time. Thanks.